Welcome back. Well, riots and protests at campuses all across the country have become a common occurrence, and our next guest calls it the Snowflake Rebellion.
He went viral in 2015 for his essay, "This is not a daycare, it's a university," read by more than 3 million people, and now he has a new book.
He does. Dr. Everett Piper is the president of Oklahoma Wesleyan University and author of a brand new book, Not a Daycare, The Devastating Consequences of Abandoning Truth. Doctor, good morning to you.
Thank you for having me.
You were with us about a year ago talking about this op-ed that you had written, and it all started with a kid came up to you after a prayer service and said, "I feel victimized by that sermon."
It was actually a chapel service, and the homily was on 1 Corinthians 13. And for those that don't remember, that's the quintessential love chapter of the Bible. Love is patient, love is kind. You've heard it read at 1,000 weddings.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
This kid actually felt that he had been singled out, and he was uncomfortable, apparently, for feeling a little bit of guilt for not being loving. So my challenge to him was, if you want us to coddle you and comfort you and not challenge your character, you might want to go someplace else. This is not a daycare, it's a university. Opinions always lead to bondage and slavery. Jesus told us, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
That's right.
I love the T-shirts. Look what he
came
brought
with some
us.
cool ones.
College, not a daycare.
You've seen the classic college T-shirt? Slightly modified.
The A is the safety pin.
That's
Not
right.
a daycare.com.
I'll be wearing it.
This is ideological fascism. It is not intellectual freedom. These fascists are crying, you must submit, you must be one of us, you must comply, and if you don't agree, we will expel you, you're verboten. That's not classically liberal. That's classically fascist. A lot of academics, the elites, the smarter than thous, are self-deceived. But there are some that recognize that they've created a monster and it's turning around to bite them. And they're frightened by it. They've created this postmodern monster, this angry red face of a 19 and 21-year-old protesting on the campus green at Berkeley, and they're frightened by it, and they recognize that it's anything but classical liberalism. And the book is Not a Daycare, The Devastating Consequences of Abandoning Truth. That's the title of the book. It's being released today. And the answer is, you return to teaching truth with a capital T. You don't celebrate opinions. You actually hire faculty that know 2 + 2 is 4. And if they don't teach that, you fire them and go get someone else who'll teach it that way. It's not just mathematics, it's morality.
It's an interesting book called Not a Daycare. Dr. Piper's the author of it. It's amazing stuff. The Devastating Consequences of Abandoning Truth. Dr. Piper's here with us. Glad to see you. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here, Pat. Thank you.
All right, you lay bare the truth of what's going on in colleges. What is it? A guy comes in as a freshman. What is he being exposed to? Or is he a snowflake? We have to protect him from all these evil influences. What is it?
We've lost the desire to teach what's true. We now give degrees and opinions rather than actually learning something, and this is absurd. What kind of academic freedom is that? Mm-hmm. You know, Jesus told us that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Opinions always lead to bondage and slavery, and truth sets us free.
Even Christian colleges are not immune. Dr. Everett Piper, president of Oklahoma Wesleyan University, writes about it in his new book, Not a Daycare, The Devastating Consequences of Abandoning Truth.
Do you think the students are a bit confused at what the civil rights fight looks like?
Absolutely. In other words, you can't have justice without a judge. And you can't have a book without an author. You can't have a painting without a painter. The students have been taught that it doesn't matter what you believe as long as it works for you. They've been taught moral and intellectual nihilism. They've been taught that they create everything, that there is no author, there is no painter, there is no writer, and there is no definer, there is no definition of truth other than what they decide. Mm-hmm. It's narcissism to the max. They gaze into the pool, the image of their iPhone, their Facebook, their social media. They construct their own reality, their own morality, their own ideas. And if you don't agree, with their conclusions, you are a bigot, you're a hater. You are the problem. It's ideological fascism. It's not academic freedom, because they will crush you, they will suppress you because you dare to be different.
You see the title of this book, Not a Daycare. I mean, this really sticks out. What is your message to these snowflake millennials that you talk to?
Well, my message not only to the snowflakes, but to all of our country, all of our culture, is that ideas matter. Richard Weaver wrote a seminal work in 1948. It was titled Ideas Have Consequences. What was his point? Ideas have consequences. They matter. And when you teach good ideas, you get good culture, good country, good community, good government, good kids. When you teach bad ideas, you get the opposite. Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. Abraham Lincoln once said the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation becomes the philosophy of government in the next. Ideas really
Is there anything that you see on college campuses today that gives you hope?
There are a handful, and literally I mean it, a handful of colleges left that actually believe that truth is revealed by God. It's a self-evident truth endowed to us by our Creator, as opposed to postmodern constructs where you make it up and I make it up as we go. Right. There are a handful left, and if parents would ask the right questions, what's your view of truth, what's your view of Scripture, be quiet and listen, as they're shopping for a college, they will find those institutions, and it's that institution that you should pay for, and you shouldn't waste your money on any other. When Jesus was confronted with an adversary, and I would argue his culture wasn't all that unlike ours today. He had the pundits and the politicians and the professors. He had the elites challenging him all the time, too. They were called Pharisees. And the smartest guy that ever walked the face of the earth. I'm a Christian. I believe he was God incarnate, is God incarnate. He knew the answer. He could have won the debate. But why did he choose not to argue most of the time? It's because he understood the power of a good rhetorical question. Whose face is on this coin? Why do you call me Lord? Do you want to throw the first stone? And then Christ himself, God himself, who knows how to squash anybody in a good argument, he's quiet, and he lets those with a contrary worldview drop their stones and walk away. He causes their worldview to implode by virtue of the rhetorical question. That's what we should be doing right now. Expose the lie by asking a question that shines a light on the deception of a broken worldview.
So when you wrote Not a Daycare, I think people really picked up on that. And I love the cover, which is basically you've got a safety pin as if they needed a diaper. When you say that when you wrote the op-ed, lots more people came to you, seeking you out. They wanted advice. And I wonder, was the problem worse than you even knew?
You know, I'm an academic. This is my industry, and I would claim that my industry created this monster. We caused this problem, again, by the lousy ideas we've been teaching for several decades. We're getting lousy results right now in the public square on our colleges and even in our corporations, a la this Google story. So no, I'm not surprised to see the problem, but what I do think we need to recognize is the degree of the problem. What we have right now is ideological fascism in the academy, in the ivory tower, in the colleges and universities, rather than academic freedom. I basically just said, you're here to learn, not to be coddled. You're here to be confronted, not to be comforted. This isn't supposed to be safe. This is supposed to be challenging. That's all I said. And 3.5 million people cared. Why? I believe it's because of this. We intuitively know, as rational human beings who are made in the image of God, that there is great power in ideas, and that at the end of the day, civilizations are built and cultures are conquered not so much by armies and navies, but by speeches and lectures and blogs.